마지막으로 세 번째 순서는 김유진 학생과 아시아 학생입니다. 이번 발표까지 듣고 저희가 휴식 시간을 가질 예정입니다. 끝까지 집중해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 네, 우리 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
우선 카톡방 보시면 제가 파일 하나 올려드렸는데 제가 영어 발음이 그렇게 좋지 않아서 이해가 안 되실 것 같아서 준비한 한국어 번역본입니다. 이 파일 보시면서 들어주시면 감사할 것 같아요. 저는 팀 6의 김유진.
저는 my name is Anastasia. We are team number 6, and now we will start our presentation. We conducted a hackathon divided into two main parts, reality and ideal. First of all, we started by thinking about the characteristics of Kazakhstan and Korea's current climate crisis response, focusing on the Aral Sea in Kazakhstan and Jeju Island in Korea. We tried to find out if there was anything to benchmark in other countries and apply to suggest directions for improvement in our two countries' response to the climate crisis. Secondly, starting with the question of interest in the climate crisis is steadily growing. Why is it not being solved, and why is it getting more serious? I thought about the climate response to the climate crisis that can be practiced in various fields. Before we get into it, let's first look at the seriousness of the climate crisis. This results from a climate crisis survey conducted by us from May 15th to June 22nd on Acquaintance. We asked about 111 people. It may not be objective because it is limited to a small sample and not enough people around us. However, it seems sufficient to interpret that college students or young people our age have roughly similar thoughts. Let me introduce you to a few memorable survey results. First, there were more students in Korea than in Kazakhstan who answered that they felt a lot of change in their daily lives due to the climate crisis. Second, in both Korea and Kazakhstan, positive and negative answers from students were evenly distributed in the willingness to work in an environmental direction in the future. Also, they are interested in the climate crisis and aware of its seriousness. Less than half of the students put environmental considerations in their careers. In addition to this, there are also many other questions such as degree of experience with the climate crisis, response to climate crisis, awareness, and etc. None of the questions showed a particularly focused response tendency, except for the questions with two options. There were no more than 50% of the choices, and the proportion of other options was mostly similar. There are many other questions like this, and there is a lot I would like to say about the survey results, but I will stop here with the survey due to the time limit. Climate change, or climate crisis, is a phenomenon in which the average global temperature changes rapidly. According to the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, there have been voices warning about the climate crisis in the past, or even before, at least indirectly, about 100 years ago. But why is the global temperature rising steadily, and why the climate crisis is getting more serious? Through this hackathon, we would like to find out the causes and peculiarities and suggest some improvements.
Let's get to the main point. It's the reality part that touches us. Kazakhstan, the RRA. The RRA was once the world's first largest saline inland sea and a lake famous its abundant fish resource, including sturgeon. However, it is now a prime example of a public land tragedy. In the 1960s, the Soviet government built dams on the Amudarya and Shirodarya rivers, which were the only source of water of cotton farming. The water supply was blocked, so the river flowing into the RRC decreased, and the RRC eventually turned into a desert. As shown in the picture above, the disappearance of the RRC greatly affected the lives of about 13.5 million residents in the surrounding area and the surrounding climate. I introduced example of impact from the disappearance of RC, the saltiness of the RC, and the sand of the desert fly away threatening neighboring farmland. 2. The RC is contaminated by various chemical fertilizers and pesticides sprayed for agriculture. It threatens the health of residents who use the RC as drinking water, especially children. Pakistan region south of the RC, the death rate of children in 1988 is said to be the highest in the world. 3. It was reduced from 32 species to 6 species. A representative move to solve the RC climate crisis, the biggest catastrophe of the 20th century, is following. 1. The 1994 countries is RC waters, a long-term project for RC water planning. 2. Activities of organizations and international organizations in Central Asia. 3. Uzbekistan's government and the civic groups' efforts. 50 seats were allocated to environmental protection groups. Next, Korea is Jeju Island. Jeju Island is the most vulnerable to climate change effects because it is an island. The problems caused by the climate crisis in Jeju Island are as follows. The sea level rise rate is more than twice the global average sea level rise. If carbon dioxide is emitted like now, the sea level will rise 82 centimeters in 2100 from 33 years ago. If the sea level rise, Jeju Island will be underwater for a large part, and about 300,000 people will have to move inland. This means that it will become uninhabitable due to the flooding. Second, the distribution of fish has changed due to the rise in water temperature due to climate change. 3. Marine acidification. The ocean absorbs about 30% of carbon dioxide emissions from human activities, which cause seawater to become acidic. Ocean acidification is now known to be 100 times faster than it was 55 million years ago due to this. The representative moves to solve the climate crisis in Jeju Island are as follows. 1. Internationally, in July 2023, a plenary session of the European Parliament passed the Nature Restoration Act deal. However, only 1.2% of the world's 64% of the ocean are now conserved, and the area of marine protected area is less than 10%. 2. At the Korean level, the sea in Jeju is like the international situation. The marine protected area is less than 1% of the sea under Jeju's jurisdiction. Far from restoring the former state, the current state is still far below international standards. Next, let's look at overseas cases. Denmark, Estonia, and the Philippines were selected as the countries to look into. The criteria for selection are the top 3 countries in the CCPI. In responding to the climate crisis, I would like to start by saying that I thus coercion was federal in Denmark, and activism was federal in Estonia, and the innovation was federal in Philippines. Two examples of Denmark's response to the climate crisis are as follows. One, on May 24, Denmark announced that it was seeking to impose a so-called agricultural carbon tax on the agriculture sector. It aims to curb the greenhouse gas emissions by imposing tax on the agriculture sector, which accounts for nearly half of Denmark's total carbon emissions. Despite concern that the agriculture sector could lack, if the plan goes according to the report, Denmark will able to reduce its carbon emission by 68% compared to 1990. On this December 6, 2019, the Danish Social Democratic Party's government came up with the world's first climate crisis response law. It means that it has a liberally and forced labor mechanism for responding to the climate crisis. In addition, the government aimed to prepare a mechanism that would prevent the abolition of climate law, even if a regime less interested in responding to the climate crisis to office. During this period, the Danish Social Democratic Party's government made it a top priority to prepare measures for the climate crisis. It also discussed 8 politics parties, progressive or conservative. Denmark's climate law was established as a pan-nature agreement supported by 93% of the National Assembly, both ruling and opposing parties. Two cases of Estonia's response to the climate crisis are as follows. One, adopting higher climate scores. In July 2023, the Climate Minister Kristi Michal announced amendment to the National Energy and Climate Plan. According to the Estonia Energy Plan, or electricity generation will be made through renewable energy source by 2030. To achieve for climate neutrality by 2050, the announced energy and climate plan will be divided into 7 sectors: energy, transportation, buildings, agriculture, industrial process, waste management, land use, and forestry, with detailed measures to achieve the revised target and reduce greenhouse gas emission, comprising 106 items. Plus, Deputy Climate Minister Kate Kesemet has called for higher tax on older cars with high CO2 emissions and exemption from tax on electric vehicles. 1 to 2, Korea, and on the other hand, has lowered its target for renewable energy in 2030. In the 10th Basic Plan for Electricity Supply and Demand released on January 23, Korea reduced its target for the share of renewable energy generation from 30.2% in 2030 to 21.16%. The use of biomass has also increased, resulting in forest destruction and biodiversity loss, as well as continuous public financial support for fossil energy such as oil and gas. By the biomass support policy of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy and the Korea Forest Service, Korea's biomass power generation has increased 42 times over the past decade. To April of 2024, Estonia's first pump power project secured €1.98 million grant. Construction of Estonia's first pumped water power plant is scheduled to open in 2025. Estonia's Ministry of Climate signed a memorandum of understanding MOU with energy company Zeroterium to achieve Estonia's goal of using 100% renewable energy by 2030. Based on this cooperation, Zeroterium aimed to find a solution that can realize pumped-out energy storage project. In response, Zeroterium received a €1.98 million grant through an ongoing applied research program by the Estonian government, helping to develop projects and support technology exports, and develop Zeroterium Paldiski underground long-term energy storage, which is said to have been able to be built on any terrain as well as on flat land by developing existing PHS technology to a significant level.
I will tell you a little more about the Philippines. Two examples of the Philippines' response to the climate crisis are as follows. First is nuclear power generation and wind power plants. Second is active introductions of overseas technologies, and also establishment of Manila's integrated flood forecasting system for disaster mitigation in 2011, and establishment of an agricultural processing faculty and support center to support the Korean government in the Philippines. Now let's talk about Korea and Kazakhstan. We should emulate the Denmark's laws and institutions, enforce eco-friendliness and Estonia's high goal setting and active technology development, and the Philippines' open acceptance of what is innovative for its existing country, rather than trying to respond to the climate crisis only by its technology. If you look at the response of Korea and Kazakhstan to the climate crisis, of course they are working hard, but they seem to have a small interest and activism compared to the countries above. This is the second main part that focuses on countermeasures. As a factor to consider in addressing the climate crisis, we selected the possibility of coexistence of power generation and environmental pollution. Second is the social atmosphere, and the third is technology. Let's talk about economic aspect. As can be seen from examples from Kazakhstan, Korea, and the world, the fundamental cause of environmental pollution and global warming is human economic activity. Artificially pooling water, farming, and cutting down trees to build objects adversely affects the Earth's self-purification, and emitting carbon dioxide with oil and coal for energy production increases the Earth's greenhouse effect. I'd like to say that economy is paralyzed by work for the economy. For example, if global warming causes sea levels to rise, causing damage due to flooding or tsunamis, trade becomes impossible. Consider a situation where you can't get goods or food from abroad even for a day, and where your exports are less competitive due to the tax boom. Your country's economy and life will be shaken negatively. As a response to this, I would like to present the following. The first is signaling businesses that consumers' consumption patterns are like this and they want eco-friendly products by purchasing products with eco-certification. Second is tax subsidizing eco-friendly products. For example, South Korean Samsung Semiconductor uses 100-year renewable energy at its overseas production sites in the US and China, but Korea's domestic division uses only 24% of the renewable energy. Looking at this, it would be a good idea to attract businesses that require energy to overseas countries where renewable energy is readily available. The next part is moral and realistic aspect. Personal and daily practice, such as using tumblers or reducing disposables, doesn't have an impact on carbon dioxide emissions compared to other things. Of course, the effect increases when more people work together and as the number of people who practice increases exponentially. I would say that it's much better to do it together with the surroundings and as a group than to do it perfectly alone. We should focus on how to make collective change and focus on the practice. As a response to this, I would like to present the following suggestions. First is voting for policies for climate crisis as a suffragette. Second is use influencers to make climate crisis challenges more popular. Third is the government presents an eco-friendly lifestyle manual. Fourth is private and public interest, increased education in depth on the climate crisis. Number 5 is host a discussion contest on the business or country's actions on the climate crisis. Number 6 is use of media companies. Now let's talk about the level of use of eco-friendly technology. Even the aspects are not strongly regulated, have modern humans achieved the level of eco-friendly technology to prevent global warming. The first demonstration that humans could use solar power to generate energy was a solar-powered engine on display at the World's Fair in the late 1860s. It was in 1954 when the first photovoltaic cells or usable cells were created. Knowing that humanity is increasing the greenhouse effect, and this is due to fossil fuels. Nevertheless, humans have continued to use coal, oil, and natural gas to promote the greenhouse effect. In other words, the development and utilization of eco-friendly technologies have been delayed. As a countermeasure, I would like to present the following 5 things. First is increased budget allocation for eco-friendly technologies. Second is induce companies to actively use eco-friendly technologies. Third is National Environmentally Friendly Technology Idea Contest. Number 4 is Task Force dispatched for overseas technology benchmarking. Number 5 is aggressive export of new and renewable energy abroad. The carbon dioxide that causes the greenhouse effect comes from fossil fuels. The climate crisis is that if you keep using oil, coal, and natural gas, you can't solve the problem. We need to replace fossil energy with renewable energy. And I emphasize again, no fossil fuels. We need to create a decarbonized economy. Speaking of Kazakhstan, I understand that Kazakhstan has the world's 12th largest crude oil reserves because it is the world's 9th largest by area and is also very rich in energy and mineral resources. However, considering the climate crisis, we must develop and use technologies that prevent carbon dioxide emissions or give up using them at all. The next is international aspect. The international level of Korea and Kazakhstan is disastrous. We are by no means an advanced country in terms of climate crisis. Unfortunately, Korea and Kazakhstan are at the bottom of the list by any international figure. The following table shows the share of renewable energy generation among electricity generation by country in 2019 provided by Energy Data. Korea is significantly below and ranked number 40s. The 31st and 44th countries are all oil producers in the Middle East, and they are last considering there is little demand for renewable energy. Kazakhstan is number 34th. Similarly, it's far below average. Norway, the country with the highest share of renewable energy generation, generates 97% of its total electricity from renewable energy. More than any other international issue, the climate crisis requires international cooperation. In the case of Korea and Kazakhstan, I think that if you want to join the advanced countries in responding to the climate crisis, they need cooperation and help from advanced countries. That's why we suggest the following countermeasures. A request for international technology sharing, formation of an international technical joint research project team, and domestic and internationally compulsory carbon dioxide emission system finance. There are a few difficulties in realizing the countermeasures. For example, error in national choice, the backlash of the people in the country, and possible impossibility of global cooperation. For mitigation, we present the following. This is a problem like growing pains, and it seems impossible to solve it completely. Therefore, we must try to ensure that different fields and organizations communicate and influence each other on the equal footing. Next is adaptability to climate crisis. Today, when the climate damage caused by global warming is increasing, it is natural to work immediately to solve the climate crisis. But even if we try to do it now, we can't confirm the visible effects tomorrow. Just as there is time gap between carbon dioxide emissions leading to temperature increases. In this situation, the effort we can make at the same time as preventing global warming right away will be an adaptation to the climate crisis. We present the following 3 countermeasures. First is increasing efforts to develop technology for predicting natural disasters. Second is countermeasures against damage caused by climate crisis and the creation of manuals. Third is the people should try to follow the government's instructions in the face of damage caused by climate crisis. I reiterate just in case, the adaptation to the climate crisis I just mentioned is just an effort to reduce the extent of damage to those affected by climate change now. It may be cold-hearted in the near term, but it's more important than efforts to prevent global warming.
Korea is currently seeking coal oil for its technological prowess and efficiency in economic development. The natural conditions for producing new and renewable energy are also inferior. Furthermore, fewer countries in the world are aware of and interested in the climate crisis than in other countries. Korea, however, certainly has some aspects of its technological prowess that have helped the Philippines respond to the climate crisis. The bottom line is that from a broader perspective, Korea seems to need to strive to enhance its strengths and at the same time seek the help of other countries and actively accept its involvement in the climate crisis. It is also cautious to judge too early on, but the survey showed that young Koreans are very interested in the current climate crisis and are more willing to follow the government's strengthening policy. Therefore, Korea needs to actively strengthen its regulatory measures against the climate crisis, and I think it is time to strengthen it. Kazakhstan seems to have had relatively low youth interest in the past and the climate crisis, which has